I've been doing push-ups. I've been doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley and Scotty Too Hottie with you today on the other side of the table, and it is a very exciting version, an abbreviated version of the Ysn Power Hour, as Scotty's got places to go. I've got places to be. We have some baseball and softball on the network, some lacrosse on the network tonight, so we got to make it short and sweet, kind of like me, Scotty. So let's get down to the nitty gritty, and let's get to the On This Day in Sports History, brought to you by our friends over at, who do we want to give it to? Do we want to give it to, let's give it to the Avalon, from the Avalon downtown. You love their pizza. I love their pizza. Their food is amazing, and what a great restaurant that is. This today, On This Day in Sports History, brought to you by Avalon Downtown. Why not? I was rude. I cut you off. I apologize. What did you have to say about the Avalon?
I was just saying, like, I think I might have told you this before, DJ, but the Avalon's pizza, the Briar Hill with the peppers, like, if that'd be one of my meals, like, if I was going to the electric chair tomorrow, that'd be one of my choices.
And while that's an interesting topic, I think why everybody talks about, like, what you would eat, what would you have done to get on death row, Scotty? Like, you of all people, what would you do to go and have a last meal prepared for you?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know what kind of psychotic things go through your mind. I know some of them, but like, you don't want to kill anybody.
No, I don't think I would ever have it in my heart to do something like that.
You always said that you want to run somebody over, like with your wheelchair, which I think would be, again, I'm not that guy. I think it'd be hilarious as long as everybody was okay at the end of the day. Like, if you actually hurt somebody, I'd be a little bit, I don't know, nervous to say that, but I fall when people fall downstairs. I fall when I fall down the stairs. I'm just one of those guys that America's Funniest Home Videos, I'm like their key demographic.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, I definitely, like, especially if someone was going to bring harm to me, I felt like I'd just go all out, like, okay, I'm going total calm, like, what do I have to lose here?
My favorite is every time I have to leave to go to a meeting or something and you're here, you always say, okay, if somebody comes in, I'm going kamikaze on them.
Yeah.
Whether they know it or not, you're going after them at 7 miles per hour, full speed.
Yeah,
love it.
And don't we have bats in here? Maybe I could get one of those bats.
You want a bat? You can have a bat.
Yeah.
We'll get the Scotty wooden bat made so everybody knows. Even after they leave, they'll have Scott Mincher plastered across their head backwards.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to On This Day in Sports History. Scotty, interesting one. Because one of my favorite players of all time, Barry Bonds, in 2002 hits his 400th home run as a member of the San Francisco Giants on a 3-0 win over the Cincinnati Reds. Bonds is the first ever player with 400 home runs for one team and 100 for another team. So that got me thinking, being that this happened on this day, May 4th, 2002, who are some of the best players to play for multiple teams in all of sports? Not just baseball, but in all of sports. Like, when you think of players that were successful one place and then went to another place. Who were those names?
Well,
here it comes. I knew it. I know it's
yeah,
coming.
one guy, I know you're gonna hate this, but you have to. He's won a championship 3 different places. Now, some people don't count the bubble as a legit title. I do, because I say everyone played in it. So LeBron, right off the top of my head, he comes to mind.
Okay.
I know you're not.
I'm not discounting it.
His biggest fan, but somebody like LeBron, I really like people knock even like staying with basketball, like people knock Jordan G. I know he didn't win anything with the Wizards, but I was really impressed at his age what he was able to do on the floor when he did come back.
What about like Tom Brady?
Yeah, and people were saying before he said he was coming back to the Bucks, people were saying he could go to San Francisco. He didn't, but to win 6 with one franchise, and then the first year you go to another franchise, win one. Again, not to take anything away from Bill Belichick, but what has he really done since Brady's been gone? There hasn't been as much chatter about him being such a genius.
No,
so
right.
Brady is.
What are some other names?
He's right there.
One that comes to the top of my mind is Alex Rodriguez. And I know that he's a very polarizing figure, but you look at what he did with Seattle, you look at what he did with New York, with Texas. To me, he's in the conversation.
And like I realized another guy I just thought of, DJ. I realize people have knocked him because they say, "Oh, he's a shell of what he once was," but he still put together like. He was far from a bum, and that's Albert Pujols.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's had all those great years as arguably the best player in the game when he was in his prime with St. Louis. And then I thought he had a couple, even though he wasn't elite anymore, he still had really good years in Anaheim too. So he's another name.
Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah, with that Edmonton and then the Kings.
And then the Rangers.
That's right. I forgot about his time with the Rangers. You're more of a hockey fan than I. Congrats on that big Penguins.
Triple OT, baby.
Triple OT.
I'm still trying to recover from
over the Rangers. That had to be a thriller, man.
Instant classic. Instant classic.
Do you think they gotta? I mean, you could say everyone in the playoffs once you get in, but do you think the Pens have a legit shot to take home another Stanley Cup?
I do, being that this is the 16th time that Letang and Crosby and Malkin all have gone through the playoffs together consecutively. 16 years back to 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 back.
It's so weird. Like, not to cut you off, but thinking about I remember when Crosby first came up, and my first and only NHL game was at it was, I think, the Civic Arena, and the Penguins played the Canadians. It was like Crosby's, I think it was year number 2 for him, and they call him Sid the Kid. It's so weird that he's like 34 years old now. Time flies, but the Penguins, you really have to give them a lot of credit. Since that first year when they lost to Detroit, and then they bounced back the next year and won the championship. I mean, they've been pretty consistent throughout the years in having a shot. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on the rest of this postseason.
I would never go against Sidney Crosby. Like, if I'm a betting man, and I am, I would never go against Sidney Crosby. Never bet. You don't bet against LeBron. You don't bet against Crosby. You never bet against Jordan. You don't bet against the great ones of the sport. And I don't think it's even an argument that Sidney Crosby is one of the best hockey players still to this day, even at his ripe old age of, what is he, 35 now? 34, something like that?
Would you put Crosby, because like I say, I'm more of a casual viewer when it comes to hockey and not, every game type guy. But would you put Crosby top 5 all time or top 10?
Ooh. Hockey player, yes. Scorer, no. But hockey player, yes.
So all around player,
yeah,
you put him in the top.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's done things that nobody else has ever done. I mean, to win a gold medal and a Stanley Cup in the same year, and I think he won the MVP as well, and maybe the Ross Trophy or the whatever trophy that. And I'm not a huge hockey fan. This is where Mike Ackelson went. But to me, Sidney Crosby has been the best hockey player in the universe for the last 16 years or however long it's been.
And
so
people I think DJ, people just assume oh, this guy's so talented. How hard is it to succeed? To do it for that long. And I'm not taking anything away. It's almost impossible for me to argue against Jordan because I remember Jordan's prime years and what he did the last couple years in Chicago. But for LeBron, and I know it's a different game, people say, you were allowed to play more defense back in Jordan's day, and you had to deal with more physicality than you do now. But just using LeBron as an example, for somebody like him to meet his expectations, maybe not as far as being the greatest of all time, but still bring one of the greatest, and to sustain it for 2 decades, and now Crosby's going on 2 decades. I know they have skill, but at some point you have to have this mental toughness, man. That has to be. There's times where I'm sure they've had major self-doubt, but
well, yeah,
they're able to pull themselves out.
And I think that's part of growing up. You know what I mean? Everybody that's 37 to 45, my age bracket, right, that were big hot shots in high school or in college, still think in their mind that they can go out and hit 500 against high school players of today. I'm here to tell you that's kibosh. It's baloney because, listen, your eyesight gets worse, your bones ache a little more, things take a little bit longer to get started and stopped. Think about it. The last time I went on a run, man. When you don't run for 3 months in the winter in Ohio, and you go for a run, things hurt. Things hurt not just the next day, but they hurt for days after. And that's part of growing up. And LeBron, to your point, greatness, they have to stay up so long. They're competing against 18, 19-year-olds. They're competing against the best in the world on an every night basis. They can't really take 3 months off to lick their wounds. If you remember when Sidney Crosby got hurt, got his face all bashed in, his teeth knocked out, and he had all the problems with concussions. It took a while for him to get back up to speed with being the best in the world, but he was able to do it, which is something that to be said for that. As with, and everybody thinks I hate LeBron. I don't hate LeBron. I'm just tired of hearing about how he's the best of all time. It's not my opinion, but I respect everybody else's opinion for saying that he is. But I respect the hell out of the guy for what he's done over the last 20 years, which has been, again, one of the highest caliber basketball players in NBA history.
And I think, again, too, to your point, DJ, another big part of it is look at somebody like LeBron and look at Tom Brady. Now, I know you don't agree, and I'm not saying I still would probably take Jordan as the greatest of all time. So I agree with you there as far as NBA goes. But you look at Tom Brady and just about everybody now, like he's the consensus GOAT, he's the standard. But people always think about, like what he's been able to do on the field. And I think sometimes they lose sight of, um, or they don't give him as much credit for what he's done, like away from when he's not on the field. Like I've read about Brady's diet, and it's just absolutely absurd. Like I've heard, like he never eats like a cheat meal, and just the amount of money these guys spend on their bodies in the stage. I mean, Brady was still DJ. He's what 45.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, he was top 5 in the league this past season. Still, like that's absolutely insane.
Think
like,
about this,
Father
Scotty.
Time is undefeated.
He's closer to retirement and gaining Social Security than he is his rookie year. You ever see those memes of people like, hey, we're closer to 2050 than we are 1980?
Yeah.
And you start to really question, like, oh my gosh, we are like Tom Brady is closer to Social Security than he is his rookie season. That is ludicrous. That for an NFL athlete to be able to do it. But we'll put a bow on this. Final thoughts?
I just wanted to say, like, it's crazy to think about too as we close. Like, there's guys coming in the league now that were like babies when Tom Brady was first drafted. So, like, thinking about it from that perspective is just absolutely insane, man.
That's a great point. As we're going to talk about the draft as it happened, and we kind of previewed it, and you could put a side-by-side picture up of Tom Brady, what he was doing in 2001, and what let's see. There's probably somebody that was drafted that wasn't even born yet this year.
Yeah, like was well, Pickett's older, but was like Malik Jackson or Willis, I should say.
All right, give me a name. Let's find out.
Willis. Look at
Malik Willis?
Malik Willis, yeah.
All right.
Look what year he was born. I know Pickett's like 24.
May 25th, 1999. So he was born when Brady was in the league. He was still in college.
He was only a year old, though.
Yeah, so who would be a good one here? Who's the Browns' top draft pick in the 4th round or whatever round you finally got to pick somebody?
They had Emerson. Martin Emerson, and they had Perry on Winfrey. You could look at one of those guys.
September 27th, 2000 for Martin Emerson. So
Brady
was in the league
his rookie year in the league, and Emerson was just that is just baffling to me. Wow.
I never thought of it like that. I never even thought to do a side-by-side like that. Unbelievable. So there's going to be a shot. Do the Browns play the Bucs this year?
They do.
So there's a shot that
Cleveland, I'll be there. It's my first time. I'll get to, I pray, I knock on wood that he doesn't get hurt, because it'll be my first time to get to see Tom Brady.
So when he comes down to your end zone, are you going to give the let's go?
I think you have to with that guy. I mean, how can you not?
I love it. I think it's very it's going to be very cool, man. I haven't seen the schedules come out here. What?
Yeah,
2 weeks
May
next week.
12th.
So next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's it.
Tuesday or is it
next
Thursday?
Next Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
So That'll be an exciting thing for all of us. All right, let's get to the draft, Scotty. I mean, give me a grade on what your Brownies did. Did you like trading out of the second round and getting a little deeper?
I'm not in love with it, DJ. Only because not the fact that they traded down. It was just the player they took.
Mm-hmm.
You just looked up Martin Emerson, and it's not that I don't think he can be a good player. It's just that the Browns already are pretty well stocked, and they got a lot of investments in the cornerback room. So I don't really necessarily see the fit there. Now I know they traded one of their corners to the Rams on draft day, so that you could say that justifies the move. But I would have gone if it was me, just from the college football I watched. I told you I like George Pickens a lot. I would have stayed at the pick they had and either took Pickens or I really even like the wide receiver. I think he played for Central Michigan. Sky Moore.
Yep.
I really liked him a lot. So I just think Emerson, I'm not crazy about the fit. Like I said, it doesn't mean he's going to be a bad player. But even though I'm not crazy about this Browns draft, I thought it was decent. I thought getting the defensive tackle they got in Winfrey in the fourth round when Mel Kiper had him projected going 50 picks earlier, I think that's a real steal. But I'm not crazy about the rest of the class. Like David Bell, we'll see. He could catch. He's a bigger guy. He doesn't have a skill set that's going to blow you away, though. More of a solid number two, possession type receiver. So I think this draft, it was adequate. It didn't knock my socks off, but also, and this is a big if, but provided Deshaun Watson plays the way I look at it, the Browns' first round pick was Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper. So I think people that maybe don't like this draft at all that are
Well, Scotty, I'm going to stop you because it's not just this draft. It's for the next 3 drafts that pick is Deshaun Watson, right?
You're right.
So if it was just this draft, I think everybody'd be okay with it. And to your point, and not to get too deep down the rabbit hole, you still don't know if this guy's going to play. You talked about Trevor Bauer being kind of the standard of what the MLB did. What's the NFL going to do based on this? I mean, if they suspend Watson for 2 years, dude's still guaranteed a contract.
And that looks like the dumbest move in NFL history.
So then you've only got him for 3 years. If he comes out of suspension, he wouldn't have played football for essentially 4 years. And you're now
please
just think about it.
Please make it stop.
And I'm not trying to put anybody into a situation of freaking out.
And this is, don't get me wrong. I think, and I know I've broken your balls in the past about Big Ben, and it was all in jest.
Now it's all in jest.
But I don't like Deshaun Watson as a person right now. He, kind of looks like a scumbag, but from just a purely on the field, like looking at it from that point of view, I'm very nervous that, man, this guy, like, it's one thing if he gets suspended 4 or even 8 games, but if he misses a whole year, let alone 2, and like you said, it really would be 3 or 4 years without him playing, and then he's just going to strap it up when he's like, 27 26 or 28, and he's like, you lose some of those prime years, man. That is just terrifying to me. So I'm hoping that the Browns got some kind of word that he will play this year. You wouldn't think they'd make the move.
They can't. Nobody knows, and I know that I'm not on the inside of the NFL. That's not where our prime demographic is, and that's not our prime goals. But I have to believe that this is the Browns just trying to make a splash.
I think Jimmy Haslam, and sometimes it's gotten him in trouble in the past because, like a Jerry Jones, I think sometimes he's been too involved or listened to outside noise too much. I mean, there were reports, I don't know how true it is, but when they drafted Johnny Manziel, a guy on the street, a homeless man, told him draft Manziel, and he listened to him. I don't know if you ever heard.
I never heard that.
But
a homeless guy, and they went because of a guy that was,
and that's part of the reason Manziel went in the first round. From reports, it's rumored anyway. It's kind of like the LeBron, Delonte West, where no one wants to believe that was true with Delonte and LeBron's mom, but it's actually a very real possibility. It is true, and it's kind of like that with the Haslam Manziel thing. But yeah, I think Jimmy Haslam, he's the type of owner, like, he's not like a Paul Dolan where, he only is going to spend money while the iron's hot. He's a guy, he'll spend it every year. He just hasn't made the right decisions a lot of the time. And I think he's sick and fed up with losing, and he saw an opportunity to get Watson, and he's like, you know what? We're going to have to pay him a record-breaking deal, but also we're Cleveland. So when you're Cleveland and you have the reputation that Cleveland sports has, you got to overpay. So it is a big gamble. Again, I'm happy as a fan that they took that gamble and they pushed all their chips in front of the table, but it doesn't mean it's going to work out. What do you think of the Steelers? You said earlier you talked yourself into the Kenny Pickett selection, but my question to you, DJ, there's a lot of people I think that I've heard, and they say that, it's probably likely, and this is out of Pittsburgh, I've heard that it's still likely that Trubisky at least starts the year. But how do you feel as a fan knowing Pickett's already 24? I mean, and in the first round, don't you think he kind of has to play?
No. For what? What does Pickett have to play for? Pickett can get adjusted to everything. I think he's going to be in competition to be the starter. Do I like that he's our franchise guy, so to speak? I'm not crazy about it right now, but what if he turns out to be Roethlisberger? What if he turns out to be better than Roethlisberger? I don't think he's got anybody scared right now, but that's the same way that Roethlisberger came into the league. Nobody really was intimidated by Ben until he started, 15-1 to start his career and was in the AFC Championship game. And then he was the real deal. Like, the Steelers have not had a losing season in how many years since Tomlin took over with a statue of a quarterback. And I'm not trying to blast Big Ben. You know how I feel about him.
Yeah.
But we just got a little bit of mobility and a guy that's pretty savvy on his feet. I mean, that fake slide was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and a heads-up play in the game of football. And I've been watching it for a little bit. So am I against Kenny Pickett? No. Do I love it? No. Do I think that it could work out? I do. Do I think that it could blow up in our face? It could. But it's one of those things where we've been spoiled with a quarterback for 18 years who has become our our franchise quarterback. I'm not necessarily thinking that they even make franchise quarterbacks anymore, given the current state of the NFL. So if this doesn't work out in 4 years, we find another guy. And Trubisky could be the franchise quarterback. He's a first-round draft pick. And there's a guy named Baker that's still out there that I know that Cleveland's just, for some reason, either can't get rid of him or keeping him on the hook in case something happens with Watson. But I got to believe that those ties have been severed at this point. The gasoline is all over the bridge, and we're just ready to nuke it.
They brought Josh Dobbs in.
Here's the question I have for you, Scotty. Out of the other three and AFC North teams, which one did the most damage in the draft that you went, oh boy, they could be a problem for us?
I hate to say this, but I think the Ravens absolutely killed this draft. I love Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. The guy they took from Michigan, he would have easily been a really high pick, top priority if he didn't suffer an Achilles injury. So I think where they got him, it was a bargain. Really like the center they took as well. They took
from Iowa.
Yeah, and they took one of the best punters, and their special teams is always very good.
Can we address this real quick? Can I cut you off right there?
You can.
Last year, the Steelers take a punter with their 7th round last pick, and they just got lambasted by everybody. Who takes a punter in the draft? Who takes a punter in the draft? And I sat there and I said, he was the best punter in the nation. Did he really do well last year? He was hot and cold. But I think that he's going to be that guy.
I saw 7th round. What do you got?
You got nothing. We drafted a quarterback this year, and like just to have 4 in camp. The Browns draft a kicker this year. The Ravens draft a punter, and nobody says boo about it. In fact, Browns fans are psyched up about the kicker. Like he's going to make a huge impact in making the playoffs or not make it. I heard while I was watching the draft, I heard people compare the Browns and the pick to Cincinnati. And I threw up my hands and I said, I don't know how to take this anymore.
No, to me, that's absurd, because to me, it all depends on if Watson plays and how effective he is. Just like people can say all they want how automatic McPherson or whatever his name is for the Bengals was last year. But if Joe Burrow doesn't play like at an elite level down the stretch last year, the Bengals are never even in that position. So again, he could help. Yeah, I'm not saying he could help, but if we get, if Watson comes in and he's a rusty, he underperforms for his mega contract, the kicker is going to be irrelevant.
All right, let's get to the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark? Brought to you by Joe Dickey Electric in North Lima. And, of course, you can visit them always on the web at DickeyElectric.com. What's your spark, Scotty?
My spark for today, I would probably have to say just being able, I know I've used this one a lot, but it being like the beginning of May now and the weather warming up, and even though it's overcast today and it doesn't look the greatest, it's not like the sun isn't shining, it's still in the 50s. Like we're getting to that point where I think hopefully we'll be saying goodbye to the 20-degree temperature days. I don't want to speak too soon. But just that and being able to be here, my favorite day of the week is Wednesday. Being able to do the Power Hour and be on Running Point and get to interact today with Richie, a guy who I don't get to talk too much That was really cool. And we talked about local baseball and Anthony's history with softball players a little bit. So that was fun. So that's my spark.
My spark is as easy as this: 2 words: play ball. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're bouncing out of here on the YSN Power Hour. Thanks for joining us for this abbreviated version. We got to get out of here. We got some games to call here on the network. I hope you're able to take part and watch. Go to ysnlive.com/live for all your coverage of games that are still happening and those that aren't. For Scotty Mincher, my name's DJ Yoakley. So long, everybody. YSN thanks you for watching this presentation of your sports network. For stories, stats,